If you want to know what separates a great short film from one that loses its audience, you've clicked on the right video. I look at another short film you sent me and I give notes that I usually charge professionals a lot of money for. Who am I? I'm a working film editor. I cut for James Cameron, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Sundance filmmaker Mark Webber. I also get paid to give notes to, example, an Emmy-nominated HBO director. But not everyone can afford that. So I asked early stage indie filmmakers to let me hacksaw their film for free in exchange for exposing it here on YouTube. There's not going to be much sugarcoating. I'm going to be brutally honest with what works and what kills the scene. Because as an editor, I am the ambassador of the audience. Let's take a look at this film. It's called First Dates. And there's something really sweet about it. And I only really saw a couple of minutes before I decided I want to talk about this film. I thought it was really sweet. It is in German, so it's my home native language, but that's not why I picked it. I just felt like there was something really interesting going on. And I have an assumption of what's happening in this film, but I could be completely wrong. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of the beginning so you get an idea of what's going on. Again, it's called First Dates. That's going to give you a hint of what's about to happen. And here we go. An interesting blocking choice.
Ist sie da?
Ein Cappuccino.
Ich nehme auch so ein Cappuccino.
Sicher? Ich meine, also, sie wirken halt so ein bisschen nervös. Ich würde lieber so ein Kamillentee oder so trinken.
Kamillentee bitte.
Okay.
Sie wirken auch nervös.
Ich habe bald ein Date.
Ah ja?
Mhm.
Ich auch.
Oh, okay. Wollen Sie mit Ihrem Date kochen oder was machen Sie damit?
Okay. So this kind of as much as I watched the first time around. So I don't know what's going to happen. But there was something really interesting and intriguing about it. I think it's very well acted. I really like both characters. She's at the bar. He comes in. Sees her. He sits down. And she kind of goes over to him, but not. She's going to a separate table. He switches positions. Why? So up to this point, I felt like, and you tell me if you agree, but I felt like they must know each other, and this might be some kind of weird drop or something. Because I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I could know by the title that they are on a date, but I find it just really odd how the blocking was on this film.
Ich würde lieber so ein Kamillentee oder so trinken.
Sie wirken auch nervös.
Ich habe bald ein Date.
Ah ja?
Mhm.
Ich auch.
Oh, okay. Wollen Sie mit Ihrem Date kochen oder was machen Sie damit?
Another thing that I can pick up on that you will not, unless you're German, is that they're actually using the formal you. There's two ways in German how to say it, and there are many other languages that do that, where you can be very personal, which in Germany is more common these days, but they both use the formal you. And I started to notice that there is a little bit of an age difference, obviously. At the beginning, it wasn't quite clear to me. So transition of time.
Erstes Date? Also zwischen euch.
Ah, ja, doch, ja, klar.
Und?
He switched from the formal you to now an informal they. He was asking her, is this your first date with the other guy? And he is now becoming more personal.
Erstes Date? Also zwischen euch.
Ah, ja, doch, ja.
He could have said zwischen ihnen, not zwischen euch, which is the formal way of saying it.
Mann, Frau, divers.
Mann, ich suche nach so Liebe. Das Gefühl, dass ich ihm wichtig bin.
Wie findet man das raus?
Man schaut.
So at this point, I'm like thinking they're probably looking for each other in the sense that they're both on the first date. I don't know if he's mentioned yet, but he's also on the first date here. And clearly they must be looking for each other. Clearly they've met on an app. They don't know what they look like. It's a blind date, but they're waiting for each other. But it's kind of strange because as it continues, that doesn't seem to be what's going on.
Man schaut, wie es passt.
Das ist wie bei uns früher.
Und wie ist bei ihr? Schon mal gesehen?
Ja. Früher.
Now it becomes very clear that they're not waiting for each other. She asked him about the other woman. Does he know what she looks like? And he says, yeah, he's seen her a long time ago. So now what's going on now? Is she the daughter? Or is it still that they're on two different first dates? Passing of time. So there's a lot of questions right here, a lot of intriguing questions. I like the characters. They're both very like sweet and inviting in a way. I'm a little curious about why they moved around this cafe and sort of found each other intentionally, because they both took action here. Like she moved to the table and he decided to move to the other side of the table so that they could have maybe a more direct conversation where they can look at each other. Not 100% sure. These are all questions where I'm like, what is going on here? And so far, I don't really have any editing notes, I have to say, because it flows very nicely. The pacing is good. It feels very fresh. With everything that's happening, I don't know what's going to happen next. That's a really interesting way of telling a story. And there's a reason why this works on this particular film, that I know the filmmaker gave me some additional information that I'll share in a little bit.
Ich weiß nicht, vielleicht ghostet er mich auch. Und dann habe ich mir viel zu viele Sorgen für nichts gemacht.
Was heißt das, Ghosten?
Das ist so, wenn er dann halt nicht kommt, wenn er mir nicht mehr antwortet, wenn er mich so ignoriert. Weißt du? Schon mal erlebt?
Passing of time again. There's a clear structure.
Hast du eigentlich Kinder?
Was denkst du?
Ja.
So now here in my mind, I'm like thinking she could potentially be his daughter. He might not know, or this is completely not what's going on. I'm just like very interested and intrigued to figure out what is going on between them. It's so clear now. They're two different generations, right? She's like Gen Z and he is maybe Generation X, I would think.
Keine Kinder.
I'd love to see her reaction on this, because I'd love to know if that matters to her that he doesn't have any kids.
Keine Kinder.
Wolltest du keine, oder?
It's being glossed over a little bit. So maybe this is not what's going on. She might not be the daughter that he doesn't know about. We're gonna find out. And if she is, then obviously there would be a moment here to give the audience a little bit of a hint.
Wolltest du keine, oder?
Brauchst halt den richtigen Menschen dafür, ne?
Und deine große Liebe war nicht das Richtige.
It's a little bit of ping pong editing here. It's not adding anything. It's kind of just stuck with the coverage in a way where you just have to motor through and get to whatever is the next big thing. And unfortunately, there's also a mismatch between the angles. There's an over the shoulder that is a medium wide to her, which is a medium close up. I guess you could call that a close-up, which in its own is not a problem, but when you do back and forth between those angles, it's not very elegant editing, and it kind of hurts the moment, and that's where it's important to get more coverage. I mean, I work with the director Mark Webber, Sundance filmmaker. He loves to improvise every scene. He hates scripts because he feels like they're inauthentic. He really likes the process of improvisation with actors, just giving them a character and a scenario and then letting them run. Like, we cut a film called The End of Love.
Hey, where are you going?
Hey, where you going? Hey, Mark, where you going? Where you going? I'm gonna sit down. I'm not gonna lay down. I'm gonna sit down.
And if you look at it for the editing, there's so many, like, the camera is just like trying to find the shot while it's happening.
Vielleicht habe ich auch scheiße reagiert, keine Ahnung. Vielleicht ist das der Grund, warum sie mich geghostet hat.
Passing of time again. This is like the fourth or fifth time.
Ich hätte gerne einen Vater gehabt.
Aha.
Bist du ohne Vater aufgewachsen?
Mhm.
Sorry.
Alles gut.
Vielleicht auch besser so.
Ich weiß es nicht. Ich habe ihn nie kennengelernt.
Ah, echt?
Mhm.
Okay, at this point, I think I feel definitely reaffirmed that he's the dad, but I still have so many questions. First of all, I could still be wrong. I am not 100% sure. And secondly is, who arranged this for them to be in this situation? Somebody must have set this up.
Ich weiß es nicht. Ich habe ihn nie kennengelernt.
Ah, echt?
Mhm. Meine Mutter wollte mir nicht mal sagen, wer er ist.
Das ist ja aber krass.
Ja, sie hat nicht immer alles richtig gemacht.
Interesting composition here. Might have been just a happy accident. But I like that she's leaving the frame just right at this moment because she's revealing something very truthful that gives us a lot of insight on what's going on with her, and it's uncomfortable. And her face sort of turning out of the frame, moving away, emotionally works for me really well.
Sie hat nicht immer alles richtig gemacht.
And I would have maybe loved to look a little bit behind that cut to see if there's more. Potentially, maybe the filmmaker said, oh, I missed this. But I actually think it's a very sweet opportunity, a moment here, to have the framing be off.
Wir waren Studenten in Hamburg.
Mhm.
Und dann kamen die dazu. Eines Abends, jemand mitgebracht, reinkam und da. Es war wie ein Magnet, weißt du, so. Und ich dachte, wer ist das denn? Wir haben uns unterhalten und ich dachte, oh, das ist es. Und dann haben wir uns geküsst. Und dann hat die mir erzählt, dass sie am nächsten Morgen ganz früh in den Flieger steigen muss und irgendwie nach Südfrankreich fliegt. Da bin ich dann hinterher. Das war die glücklichste Zeit meines Lebens. Kurz, wenige Monate. Aber Anja wäre eine tolle Mutter gewesen.
Okay, so at this point, I feel pretty sure that she is the daughter and that she knows that he's her dad and that he doesn't know. I think I pick up on that. I'm still feeling like the way that the story is being told, I think it's done very well. Aram, that's your name. I think you have a very good handle on how to tell a story that it pays just right for me. for the audience. I can't really make any editing comments yet until I know how this will resolve, what is actually going on.
Naja. Ich glaube, du kannst froh sein, ohne Vater aufgewachsen zu sein.
Nein, das kannst du nicht sagen.
Doch, kann ich
Nein, nein,
Ich
nicht.
weiß, wie es ist, mit dem Scheißvater aufgewachsen.
Now she is also using the informal you. I think this is the first time, if I'm not
Mit
mistaken.
dem Scheißvater aufgewachsen zu sein. Und weißt du, was das Problem ist? Es war ein guter Mensch. Und dadurch, dass er gescheitert ist als Vater, ist er zugrunde gegangen.
Listen to that again. I think this is going to inform a lot about his character, his relationship with his dad.
Nein, nein,
Ich
nicht.
weiß, wie es ist, mit dem Scheißvater aufgewachsen zu sein. Und weißt du, was das Problem ist? Es war ein guter Mensch. Und dadurch, dass er gescheitert ist als Vater, ist er zugrunde gegangen. Weil er das gemerkt hat. Er hat das gemerkt, dass er kein Vater sein kann. Hat er sich zu Tode gesoffen. Ich würde das so gerne noch klären mit dem, weißt du? Und verzeihen. Vielleicht.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit more clarity on what's going on. This moment here, I think we could be on her longer because we now understand what his backstory is as a dad, and eventually it's going to connect to their relationship. But right now, that's just information, and how he feels about it is not as important as how she feels about it. And depending on who you show, the person that's talking or the person that's listening. If you show the person that's talking, you are emphasizing the information. If you're showing the person that's listening, you're emphasizing about how she feels. And I think that's what the scene could be about more.
Es war ein guter Mensch. Und dadurch, dass er gescheitert ist als Vater,
I would just stay on her here
und dadurch, dass er gescheitert ist als Vater,
because he's basically telling her what he's doing. It's less about his dad, it's more about him.
ist er zugrunde gegangen. Weil er das gemerkt hat. Er hat das gemerkt, dass er kein Vater sein kann. Hat er sich zu Tode gesoffen.
I would just cut to him right here. I would have stayed on her the whole time through. And then as the audience, we would be smart enough to make the connection about how she feels and then bring it back on the most important line, which is for him,
Hat er sich zu Tode gesoffen.
he killed himself.
Ich würde das so gerne noch klären mit dem, weißt du?
And that's even more important.
Und verzeihen.
This is good. Stay on him. I'm going to reveal now. Aram told me that he spent a month crafting the story and characters. The actors got 1 week to dive into the material. Together, they rehearsed and tested for 5 hours the day before they filmed. All the dialogue was improvised. That's the key. A small team of 3 with 2 cameras filmed for 5 hours in a restaurant in Berlin. Post-production took place in Vancouver, where he lives most of the time. They're improvising, and the cameras are sort of just going with it, because I would love this angle not to be this wide. I would love for this angle, what she's saying right now, to almost be the closest of all the angles there are, because now she's turning this towards them.
Ich würde das so gerne noch klären mit dem, weißt du?
I want to see her here,
Und verzeihen.
back to him,
Vielleicht.
close on her. It's a great reaction. It's just not necessarily the right angle. And unfortunately, sometimes there's nothing you can do. I mean, I guess you can blow in if you wanted to. Probably shot in 4K. Maybe you sacrifice a 4K output to go 1080, and then you have the option to go in. But you can also blow in another 30% if this is the full 4K frame without much of a problem.
Denkst du wärst ein guter Vater?
This is the right angle for him. Would have loved her angle to be matching this.
Ich habe keine Ahnung, was das heißt, Vater zu sein. Ich kann das nicht beantworten.
Close. We want to be close on her face.
Wie lange muss man warten?
Like this.
Date.
What's happening here in her face is what the story is about. And I feel like we're too far away to make it as emotionally impactful as it could be. But it's improvised. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where it leads to. Maybe the cameraman, if they are really in tune with the story and the action and they're listening and they're understanding what's going on, could maybe on their own accord decide to go in on this. This is something where it's nice to know what's going to happen so you can prepare for it. And you lose maybe some of that freshness of that improvisation. Or you get it and then you ask them to do it again. Tell your camera person on the next take, go close. And hopefully the actors can deliver it again.
Wie lange muss man warten auf sein Date?
This should be not this close. Because now we're pulling away from it. I almost feel like this should be a shot similar to this wide shot at the beginning. To see her move from here, like we have a wide shot that is maybe this wide for him to say, how long should I wait? To then a super wide for this moment would make that this moment of her coming to him even more impactful. Okay, and now comes the reveal.
Meine Mutter kommt nicht mehr.
Over the shoulders are often good because it shows relationship to a certain degree, but in this particular field, I would have loved to have the closest shots available, so extreme close-ups. Just imagine how impactful this would be to go from a super wide shot of her moving on to her extreme close-up telling him,
Meine Mutter kommt nicht mehr.
Extreme close-up on him, not just like a 3/4, but full on, it's registering. He's starting to put the dots together.
Ich weiß jetzt nicht, was kommt. Aber ich finde dich.
Got a little goosebumps in this moment. I definitely felt what was happening there, but I think there's so much more potential to make this even stronger with the right camera angles and the right coverage, and then ultimately the right editing.
Meine Mutter kommt nicht mehr. Ich weiß jetzt nicht, was kommt. Aber ich finde dich.
It's kind of cool how she walks out with her jacket just on her head, hanging loose. I don't know if we need the ambulance. I'm starting to think about the ambulance. I wanna be with him. I don't want the filmmaker to tell me, oh, this is important. I want the actor to tell me that.
Ich zahle das zusammen, ja?
Okay.
I mean, I get it. We don't want to be too on the nose, but I think there should be more going on with the dad. He just learned that he has a daughter. That's probably the biggest moment of his life that he'll ever experience. The thing that he will never forget, this interaction that just happened. And I feel like there has to be more than what's going on there. That's not necessarily the actors, because the actor can decide it's too much, it's too overwhelming, he's too withdrawn, he just can't process it. There could be a choice to be made here, but I think we as the filmmakers, as the storytellers, we need to go with that, and we need to be able to support that in a, for me, less subtle way. This is like a kind of a very subtle way of how life works, and I wish it would be bigger.
Ich zahle das zusammen, ja?
Okay.
I wouldn't do the super wide here again. I would have it in the close-up. I'll pay for this. And then I would have him in the super wide just, I don't know, maybe leave already earlier. We don't have to show him getting his jacket on and this and paying and all this. I would just have him walk out and do the credits on an empty room. Okay, still love this film. And I'm so glad that I held off because I had no idea what was going to happen as far as I watched it the first time around. And I had no idea that this is a father-daughter story until it really happened now during the recording. I might have caught it maybe a little bit earlier than most people will, and the later you catch it, the more impactful that will be. Aram, you showed me this film. I would tell you if something pacing-wise, like the last film that I did, I had a lot of pacing notes and tightening up process. Here, I have almost none. It's more really composition on this one. I just assume you just don't have the coverage to play around as much as an editor I would love to be able to do. But whatever you got in terms of the performances, it's all gold. I mean, they're doing really, really well. The title is a nice misdirection, actually. Overall, I think this is a very successful film. You should be really proud. Love to know how experienced you are. Is this your first time? If it is, man, you're a filmmaker and you should be going, keep crushing it. And if this is like your 5th film, you're on the right track and you should keep going and keep crushing it. If you are a filmmaker or an editor and you're interested in getting my feedback on your film, you don't mind if sometimes I tell you this sucks, please submit it to me. There's a link in the show notes. I've gone through maybe 30 shorts so far that people submitted. I found a few, but I've only really found 2. This one and the one that I did earlier, the first episode, where immediately I knew I had to make a video. So go ahead, submit your film. I want to see those really interesting projects that are pushing the envelope and where there is potential to really learn something about storytelling.